Hello, I'm James.
Hi, I'm Jimmy.
Welcome to A Job Done Well.
A podcast about the world of work and how to improve the daily grind.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, James. I'm well. How are you?
I'm fabulous for a Tuesday. Thank you very much. So what are we talking about today?
Today, we are doing the next episode in our customer experience series. We are doing a case study on Virgin Media.
That'll be interesting.
Well, we both had horrendous experience with them. Started wondering if we are alone. So it seems like...
Hang on. We're not. Anyway, carry on.
It seems like Virgin Media are fast becoming one of the most disliked companies based on the service they give their customers. So we are going to be seeing what you can learn from Virgin Media as a case study to try and improve your company's results.
But before we get into that then, what else have you been up to?
So two things from me. One, forests are safe but not mathematically safe. So that's good progress. So I can relax my season ticket that I've just spent fortunes on. I will be watching Premier League football, so I'm relieved for that. And secondly, which I won't talk about now, Virgin Media saga continues.
All right. Well, this week I released, very exciting, my audio book.
Well done.
So, yeah, if anybody wants to listen to my voice, there's an audio book. You can pay to listen to it as well. So quite exciting, really.
So you can listen to this for free or pay.
Yeah, but the paid version is much better quality.
It is good, actually. It is well worth it.
I did the editing on that, not like this shower here where Jimmy normally does the editing.
That will be cut out.
Yeah, right. Go on then. So, why are we talking about Virgin Media then?
So we said we'd do a series of episodes on customer experience to help learn things to do and things to avoid. Now, we are going to have a mix of guests, experts on, who you can get some insights from, and case studies. And we picked on Virgin Media based on our recent experience. Now, the way we've done this, we've had a quick glance, so a shallow dive,
a snorkel
into Virgin Media's performance. So this is very much our subjective view rather than an analytical deep dive, but we've taken it as a learning opportunity to help improve performance and enjoyment of work.
Right then. So, go on then. Start off with the company accounts and the PR. What did you learn?
Well, just a little bit of background before we get into that. The Virgin Media is actually Virgin Media O2, jointly owned by a company called Liberty Global and Telefonica. So both of these are multi-billion pound companies. It originally evolved out of Telewest back in the 80s, NTL in the 90s. These, for those of you who don't remember, were cable, broadband, TV, phone providers. Again,
wasn't NTL? Was that the one in Nottingham?
Yeah, it was. Right. NTL was a local company. So again, though, billion-pound companies all joined together latterly, part of the Virgin Group, and owned by Sir Richard Branson, no less. So a lot of mergers. They own their own fibre network, so they're not reliant on BT. And in 2006, they signed a 30-year deal with Sir Richard and Virgin to use the Virgin branding.
How much do you get paid for that, do you think?
I don't know.
They could be called Law the Media. I'd settle for a couple of million.
They'd probably pay you about 50p for that.
Thank you. All right.
They also had lengthy battles with Sky, so really messy legal battles about what Sky channels they could show and which ones they can't. They were bought in 2013 by Liberty for 15 billion, and the Telefonica merger happened in 2020.
You're right then. So what does that tell us? Let me summarise that then. So there's a whole load of complex mergers, which I imagine integrations are tough, aren't they? So you've got a load of corporate challenges based on that.
The lawyers involved in this with all those takeovers, mergers, and battles with Sky, they must be must have made a fortune.
Yeah, I imagine so. The other thing I learned having a quick look at the company accounts was it tends to be a very numbers-based organisation. And what do I mean by numbers? Well, they talk an awful lot about profitability, and they also talk a lot about the number of customers they've got. They do claim, quite high on in their accounts, that they put customers first. There's not a whole lot of substance to that number. Yeah.
No, I think it's the classic, walk the walk type stuff. So customer first is mentioned very early in their report, but then they all talk about the numbers of customers, not the satisfaction of customers. I think it's page 58 that customer satisfaction finally gets a mention. Not what it is or just the fact that it's important.
And what we can tell from this conversation is I got a bit bored looking through it. I didn't get
You
as
never
far
got
as
that far.
page 50. No, yeah, all right.
But what we did learn is they are the second biggest broadband provider with nearly 6 million customers. They've got nearly 6 million fixed line customers as well, and nearly 45 million mobile customers. So huge organisation.
Yeah, and what is interesting financially is the amount of cash they are spending in infrastructure. So I think the number was 2 billion quid last year. So they're obviously paying a big infrastructure build game.
And in the actual products, they have some of the best and widest range of products that you can get on the market. And the upshot of some of that was that they are very, very profitable. Their revenue in 2023 was nearly 11 billion and their EBITDA was 4.1 billion.
Well, hang on, EBITDA, go on then, what's that?
So earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization. In other words, profit. How much money they made. So they made billions.
Yeah. Any other stats of note then?
Well, the thing that was slightly surprising to me, but let's come back to this, but they employ 16,000 people,
All right.
and actually they weren't rated that badly. 3.7 out of 5 on Glassdoor.
Hang on, is 3.7 out of 5 a good score?
Well, we used to work for Capital One, and we loved Capital One.
Yeah, it's a good company.
It's a while ago now,
Yeah.
but we loved it. 3.9.
Okay, so not bad at all.
So not bad. So,
Yeah, all right.
there or thereabouts. And also
Hang
two-thirds.
on. There are some other companies on there that I've worked for which get higher scores still, and they're a shambles. So there is a little bit of a pinch of salt to be taken.
Pinch of
with
salt,
this.
pinch of
Yeah,
salt. But 2/3 of people said that they would recommend them as an employer. And in their staff surveys internally, they claimed that nearly 80% of their staff were engaged.
Yeah, okay.
Again,
Pinch of salt,
pinch of
but
salt,
not
but,
bad.
you know,
Could
not
be an
bad.
awful lot worse. However, we've talked about money, and we've talked about employees.
yeah.
What do their customers say?
As well, money, big tick. Employees, not bad. Customers, different matter.
Yeah.
So they were the bottom of the table for customer satisfaction, looking at which magazine. That was in March of this year. The things that they hated, service and support was atrocious. 25% of people said they were difficult to get in touch with. 20% said they provided poor value for money. They were described as expensive service, atrocious, unfair price hiked, shocking, diabolical to deal with. And even worse than that, on Trustpilot,
Yeah.
they scored a 1.6 out of 5. And that was with 90,000 reviews. So
90.
we are not alone, James. You were correct. There is not just the two of us. There are 90,000 other people who not only are getting bad service, but are willing to go online and say as much. Now there were some smaller surveys that were out there, like Trustpilot, some smaller ones. Some of those were higher than 1.6 out of 5, but some of them were lower.
But 1.6 out of 5 off 90,000 reviews, that's going some.
It is a little bit, isn't it?
And the other thing is we talked to some of our friends and colleagues, as we do, about this episode. We got a whole host of other feedback and comments, but we can't go into that at all because those very expensive lawyers will be on our back.
Yes, and just to bring the experience that we've had of Virgin Media to life a little bit, I was always told, stay away from them unless you have to. So I did until I moved to my current house, where the need for speed with working from home meant that the only choice of fast broadband was Virgin Media. So they have a monopoly on providing that sort of service to my house. And it was good until the contract expired, when it became a Kafkaesque nightmare. Lots of phone calls, lots of chats, wasted days of my time trying to resolve it. I was lied to, I was fobbed off, I had complaints ignored, they just shut down queries whenever they can. I mean, a lot of the staff that I dealt with seemed to either not care or took absolutely ages to get anything done. The second experience, which is way worse, because that treating me badly is one thing. I am friends with an old guy who's 82, and he can use no technology.
Right.
So he was very worried because he got a message from Virgin saying that they were putting his price up from £65 a month to £156 a month.
Right, so let's just clarify this a wee bit, because when Jimmy says he's a friend of his, not strictly to, Jimmy does some charity work, sort of help the aged type stuff, and he talks to a guy who is on his own in a council flat, 82 years old, and they charge him how much a month?
They went from £65 to £156. By the way, they're also providing him with super fast broadband, which he didn't even know he had because he can't use any technology. So I said that I'd help him try and resolve this. Now, they don't deal with vulnerable customers at all well. They're not set up. They've got some wonderful things, policy statements, but actually that doesn't translate into the service they provide the customers. You know what they said to him? To go online and provide details of his vulnerability. 2 problems there. 1, he can't use technology. 2, he can't pass security to get onto their website anyhow. So that's really helpful. The point being, not sure that they look after any of their customers, no matter how vulnerable. I did, at the end of the day, find a needle in a haystack as someone really good to help. But even when that happened, they still messed up everything, and I had to go back in and try and resolve it again. So this is trying to help somebody who's vulnerable.
Right, so how many times did you phone them just about this particular issue, do you think?
I think I contacted them probably half a dozen times. I went in store.
Yeah.
I did it by chat.
Yeah.
I phoned up.
Yeah.
I contacted them by Twitter.
Yeah.
All of them, I was really explicit that this was a extremely vulnerable person whose health was suffering as a result of the stress that they were causing.
And how long, I mean, you say 6 or 7 times, and how long was it?
It's taken me about a month to get it resolved.
No, so how much time will you spend with an agent?
Time. I've probably spent best part of a day if you added it all up together.
Right. Yeah, so it's a lot of contact time.
Yeah, and that's me being able to negotiate my way around their processes. He can't even do that.
Yeah.
So how many people are out there who are struggling with this organisation who can't deal with it? Right. They don't know and they don't care, frankly.
So my experience hasn't been that bleak. However, what do I see? I see massive price hikes at the end of contracts, unhelpful processes. So, for example, I've got a landline. They can't get rid of my landline. Nobody else in the world's got a landline except me, but they refuse to take it off my contract. Makes me wonder whether or not the processes are deliberately unhelpful. I've been trained. They've trained me, right? I always phone at the end of the contract to try and renegotiate because it's foolish not to. Yeah. And actually, if it weren't for the fact, and this comes back to their point about infrastructure, if it weren't for the fact they're the only fast supplier in my street, I would go tomorrow. I'd just like to contrast it with my mobile phone supplier, a company called GiftGaff, who I can't get enough of. Once a month, they send me a lovely little text which says, James, you're paying too much. We'd like to move you on to this lower cost contract. Do you agree? Yeah, so just a totally different point. But there you go. So there's the rant about Virgin Media. Before we go on to the so what, I think we'll go into a commercial break. We cover a whole host of topics on this podcast,
from purpose to corporate jargon,
but always focused on one thing, getting the job done well.
Easier said than done. So if you've got unhappy customers or employees, bosses or regulators breathing down your neck,
if your backlogs are out of control and your costs are spiralling, and that big IT transformation project that you've been promised just keeps failing to deliver,
we can help. If you need to improve your performance, your team's performance, or your organisation's, get in touch at jimmy@ajobdonewell.com
or james@ajobdonewell.com.
Okay, so we've talked about both the kind of numbers that are out there, some of the reviews, our experiences, but you can't argue, James, they are highly profitable.
Yeah, what does so the guy, so they're owned by a wider company. How much does the guy who runs that company earn?
I think the top man, 100 million was what I could find out.
100 million what, a year?
I think it was dollars though.
Oh, well, only dollars, yeah, okay.
Only dollars.
Right, so they're making a lot of money.
Exactly.
And their staff seem to be quite motivated.
Surprisingly enough.
Yeah. So talking to pissed off people is leaving them happy?
Don't know. Allegedly, they must be doing something right, though.
Yeah, all right. So on the positive note, they're making a huge amount of money, and staff seem to like working there. Yeah, I do worry a wee bit that there's a short-term versus long-term thing going on.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, so it is the epitome of an organisation which is making a fast buck versus one which is trying to build itself a long-term position.
Well, I think your point about long-term versus short-term, we both said that the reason why we're with Virgin Media, there's no alternative. When there is an alternative, and undoubtedly there will be one day, you going to stick with them?
No, I'm gone.
And I think everyone else will be at some point as well.
You do wonder what would happen if a company like Amazon, somebody who's got really deep pockets and takes a long-term perspective, came and entered the market, and what that would do for them.
Well, you do think, I mean, naturally in this sort of economy, you expect either market forces, so competition, to enforce people to behave differently, or the government regulate this sector. I'm not sure what Ofcom are doing looking at broadband providers, the service they provide, but they're usually the things that help balance out these things, but that doesn't seem to apply here.
Yeah.
And I do wonder, we said that they use the Virgin branding and they've got a long-term deal on that, but I wonder if, because I don't know about you, James, but years ago Virgin used to be like a figurehead for great service, great products,
Virgin
value.
Atlantic,
Oh, it was amazing company. You'd buy their products just on the basis of their name. Now, I mean, that legacy is massively tarnished with the service that these organisations now provide.
Yeah, do you think Sir Richard Branson is sleeping well at night on that or not?
I don't know. I think money makes a very soft pillow for some.
To that point, does the man who's earning $100 million a year care?
Well, he doesn't need to work for many years, does he, before he moves on?
However, right, this is all very interesting chat.
Yes.
But it's all a bit corporate strategy, which is not what we're about, let's
No.
be honest, yeah? So what I'm really interested in is organisational performance, right? So what can we learn from this?
So I think there are, and this really is the purpose of the podcast, there are some real practical lessons that you can learn from Virgin Media. The first one, obviously, being slightly flippant, how not to do it.
Right.
But I do think you can equally learn from organisations that perhaps do things the wrong way as the right. We all want to go and learn from the First Directs and John Lewis's of this world. You should look at some of these organisations as well. For me, the things that struck me, well, purpose. I mean, what is the overall purpose of this organisation regarding their customers? Do they have a focus on their customers? It wasn't clear. The business model is quite clear. Good products, high prices at the end of your contracts, shocking service.
The lesson for me there, though, is this whole point about what gets measured gets done.
Yes.
Yeah, because if you look at the reports, it's all about customer numbers and profitability.
And also, I think the interesting point, and I'm putting two and two together here, but if you were very impressed by their £2 billion investment in infrastructure, I would guess that some of that investment buys you new customers. So they're not looking after existing customers and retaining those customer numbers. And actually, their numbers did start to slow down at the start of this year.
Okay. But from a profitability point of view, I mean, getting to the key question, how could they make things better?
Well, I think we always push for the fact that good service costs less.
Yeah.
So I think that improving their service and investing more in their service would be key. I think personally that you said that are they designing some of these processes deliberately, and it can feel like it's difficult to get through to someone. The bots that they use get you caught in loops. I think that's because one of the things they do is design their contact strategy with their customers and the way they interact with their customers from their point of view, looking inside out, which often will be about how do I save money on tactical contact right now, as opposed to thinking outside in. So from the customer's point of view, what are they calling for is my organisation, easy to contact, to navigate? Do the channels work for the customers or for me? Can they get through to the right people? Am I getting first contact resolution? So how do I deal with complaints? I mean, I actually made a complaint and it just disappeared.
Right. But the point is, I think, from an operational point of view, the question is, why is this customer phoning me? And how do I make sure they never, ever have to phone me again?
Well, I think you've got to listen to your customers. And, I always think you should be looking at the quant and the qual side of things. So quant means, the kind of numbers. So what are customer surveys telling you? What are your retention rates telling you? What are the complaints? To your point, James, first contact resolution, all of those things are really important. And then qualitative, listen to your customers. What do you see on social media? What do you see on these reviews? One of the most telling things I did that really helped me open up my eyes to customers was running some focus groups.
Okay.
Just actually getting customers to talk about their experience, their needs, what they're there for. That was absolute eye-opener. So do Virgin Media do those sorts of things in terms of listening to their customers? And if they do, are they actually using those insights, or do they sit over in some customer experience team that's tucked over yonder?
Ignoring.
Or are they at the heart of how they design their operation and how they run it on a day-to-day basis?
Right. But the point being, understand what your customers are phoning you about, and design your operations so that you can deal with that.
Exactly.
Yeah. But then there's more to that then, isn't there? Because it's not just so much, or it's not entirely about the contact strategy. It's about the capability of your staffs and systems and stuff and the things that you put behind that.
Yeah, so you've got to make sure that the systems and processes really support your staff to deliver what the customer needs. So I get what you're saying, James, about the customer never needs a contact, but sometimes customers do. They do want reassurance, but can your customers do that? I mean, I had somebody looking at discounts on my account. It took them 20 minutes to figure out the discounts. That should be like there at someone's
It
fingertips.
should be when they're giving them out left, right, and centre. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it should.
Yeah.
They should be designed to help their users give the service to their customers that they need. So systems and processes, technology, is that really working for your customers? Is the training of your staff adequate? And do you have the right resources? I mean, how many organisations now do you get through to, and it's a busy period? It's always a busy period.
Yeah. So really two things there then. Understand why your customers are phoning you and design around that, and then make sure that you've got the capability in place behind that to deliver the service.
And I wouldn't mind making a bet that if Virgin Media invested some of their money in getting those things right, they would change the numbers from 1.6 out of 5 and bottom of the which surveys, and their staff would enjoy their jobs more. And in the long term, to your point, they would probably find themselves more successful and more profitable.
Because when somebody does attack the market, they won't have anywhere to run because they'll be so entrenched.
Because you're on the commercial moral high ground. At the moment, they're not. It's just they're not being attacked by anyone, or the government aren't regulating them.
So very short summary then. What can we get from that?
The point we're raising around this case study is you can learn from the best and the worst.
Yeah. I think for me, it comes back to that whole thing about measures and purpose. They really drive performance because it drives the way you think about things and how you design things.
Practically, I think if they design their processes from a customer's perspective, they could make a massive killing on operational cost savings, because there is so much waste in their systems.
Yeah, so a beautiful demonstration of where good service really could cost less.
Absolutely. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to talk more about how you can either learn from the best or the worst, or put some of the lessons that we've talked about in place in your organisation, then get in touch with us at jimmy@jobdonewell.com.
Or james@jobdonewell.com.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Cheers now.
If you'd like to find out more about how James and I can help your business, then have a look at our website at jobdonewell.com.